I mean, that was one of the stupidest trades ever. You go get two guys over 7 feet tall in a little man's league, and neither one of them are good enough on the offensive end. They're not like Shaq.
When the Rudy Gobert trade went down, I think that a lot of us just kind of collectively paused before thinking, what in the world just happened when the Rudy Gobert trade went down? Most people expressed utter disappointment in the former Utah big man moving to Minnesota and thought that this team it gave up way too much. At one point in time, there were actually people saying that this trade was flirting with being an all-time disaster. And now look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not only are they one of the best teams in the Western Conference, but they're one of the best teams in the entire NBA. While I can admit that I did think that the Minnesota Timberwolves had given up too much for Gobert, at the same time, the potential of the former 2018, 2019, and 2021 Defensive Player of the Year playing alongside a budding superstar in Anthony Edwards and a ridiculously talented offensive big in Karl-Anthony Towns did intrigue me. And today, we're starting to see that potential reach fruition. And we have to talk about that, but first, today's content is brought to you guys by Game Time. For me, buying tickets has always been a mixed bag. I can't tell you guys how many times that this whole ticket buying process has stressed me out. This is where Game Time comes in. Game Time is the stress-free, fast, easy, and cheaper way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Game Time is like a cheat code when it comes to buying tickets. They have great last-minute deals which are offered even an hour after the event starts. They have all-in prices, and they have their lowest price guarantee, which is fantastic if you're trying to find the best deal possible. Check this out. You guys are going to love this one. You can also view your seat from the app. This is by far one of my favorite and most underrated Game Time features. Imagine spending your hard-earned money thinking that you're getting these crazy seats only for your view to be completely trash. Unfortunately, I don't have to imagine that as it's happened to me. But it wouldn't have if I had been using Game Time. Guys, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code COOP for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply, of course. Again, create an account and redeem code COOP for $20 off of your first purchase. Download Game Time today, guys. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Again, guys, I want to give a huge shout out to Game Time for coming through and sponsoring today's content. What the Minnesota Timberwolves have been doing this season is nothing short of spectacular. This team is long, it's athletic, it has star power, and most importantly of all, it's incredibly bought in. This Minnesota Timberwolves team is a well-oiled machine that isn't backing down from anybody. And it all starts at the top with this team's bona fide superstar, Anthony Edwards, who has become a flat-out beast on the defensive side of the basketball. A year ago, Anthony Edwards himself said that he feels like he's the best defender in the NBA. And since saying that, he's been doing all that he can to prove himself right. Rudy Gobert straight up calls Anthony Edwards one of the best on-ball defenders that he's ever seen. So it's no surprise that when this Minnesota Timberwolves team needs a stop, that Anthony Edwards is more than ready to rise to the occasion. Side note, you have to be happy for Gobert, who now plays for a team that is loaded with defensive talent. Remember, when this man was with the Jazz, he literally had to beg his team to try and get stops. For a defender like Gobert, it's a dream to have your best player as locked in as Anthony Edwards is. So against the monstrous Boston Celtics team that has been dominating the Eastern Conference early this year, Anthony Edwards showed us exactly how good he could be on both sides of the ball. This game, Ant would get the assignment of guarding Celtics All-Star and 22-point-per-game scorer Jaylen Brown. Now, while Ant would match up with Jaylen Brown, late in this game he would find himself on an island with none other than Jason Tatum, all because Tatum thought that it would be a good idea to isolate Ant after Jaden McDaniels switched off of him after a screen. As you guys could guess, Ant would accept this challenge like he does with any other one, and in doing so, he would get the stop, which would only help to propel his team to victory. If you guys like this stop by Ant, then you're going to love his version of how everything went down. Quote, "He got the stop on me at the end of the game and was talking smack at the jump ball at overtime, and I told him, I'm coming again. Luckily, he called me up for an ISO and tried to ISO me, and I'm like, I play defense, I just got 5 fouls, so I had to show him that I could play defense, but he's a great player, one of the best in the league for sure. If there is one bear that I'm not poking with the game and the balance, it's Anthony Edwards for multiple reasons. For one, this guy is a great defender, and there are some strong metrics to back that up. According to StatMuse, among guards, Anthony Edwards has the third highest defensive rating in the league, sporting a 107. This rating only trails Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Suggs. That's not too bad. To add to the analytics, defensively, the Timberwolves are 5 whole points per 100 possessions better when Anthony Edwards is on the floor, meaning that the Timberwolves are allowing 5 fewer points per 100 possessions that Anthony Edwards is on the floor. That is a ton when you consider how good that this team's defense is already. But to be honest with you, Ant isn't one of those players that needs a whole bunch of numbers to tell you how good that he is defensively. With Ant, you could literally just watch a game and get the picture, which feels amazing to say considering how frequently that lapses used to occur for him. But beyond the fact that Ant is this fantastic defender, you also don't want to poke this bear because he's fearless and somebody that literally gets better with adversity. Ant quite literally has that same killer mentality that Jordan had. This is the kind of guy that you should be afraid to compliment wrong on the basketball floor. And get this, Anthony Edwards doesn't just want to be great at everything, he flat out wants to be the best to ever do it. And if I have to say so myself, he's off to a pretty solid start, establishing himself as one of the premier two-way players in the game today. Against the Celtics, Ant didn't just come up with a couple of big stops. He ate offensively. He dropped 38, 7, and 9 on 25 shots against the second best defense in the NBA. That isn't something that's easy to do. And while I don't want to hype up one regular season game too much, this game had a playoff-like atmosphere, and we could be talking about a potential finals preview here. Keep in mind that a team like Minnesota is built for the playoffs with their best player being battle-tested. Last season, we saw Anthony Edwards average 31.6 points, 5 boards, and 5.2 assists on 48.2% from the field at just 21 years old. I know that some of you guys are probably saying, Coop, well, they got first rounded and went down in just 5 games, which is true. Sure, they did go down in 5 games, but the Nuggets only lost 4 games during last year's championship run period, which that's kind of silly when you really think about it. That's the 4th fewest losses by any team during a championship run since 1984. If you ask me, that fact only adds to the fight that the Timberwolves put up during their run. For those who have already forgotten, every game in that Nuggets-Timberwolves series except for one was decided by less than 10 points. That's really not too bad when you factor in that this team wasn't even fully healthy. Even former Nugget Bruce Brown would call the Minnesota Timberwolves their toughest opponent, which, contrary to popular belief, a large part of the Timberwolves being so tough was the impact that Gobert had on the floor. This year, it's been more of the same for Gobert, who has been fantastic for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He has been an anchor for this swarming Timberwolves defense. Gobert is 4th in the NBA in blocks per game at 2.3, but his impact is much more valuable than that number. Gobert's mere presence on the floor is not only enough to get players changing their shot, but it can deter shots altogether. Not only has Gobert been an anchor down low for this team, but he's also continued to show that he's more than capable of stepping out on the perimeter, even if it might not be his preference. The other night, I watched Gobert terrorize Chet, who is a beast on the perimeter. Gobert would force him into multiple very tough looks and route to Chet going 6 of 20 from the field, which, speaking of, Gobert and the rest of this team have been doing so well on defense that poor shooting nights against this team has just become the norm. According to Alan Horton, aka Wolves Radio on Twitter, as of December 1st, the Timberwolves have held opponents to shooting under 40% 9 times this season. This is something that no other team has done more than 5 times and that 7 teams have yet to do altogether. When you look at this team's talented roster and passion, it makes sense that this team is doing things like this while also claiming the best defensive rating in the NBA this season. It really is a luxury that this team is able to start a lineup that consists of Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert, and then have players like Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Kyle Anderson ready to hoop off of the bench. A few years back, I would have never found myself saying anything like this, but this Timberwolves starting lineup has no weakness on either side of the basketball, which means that yes, Rudy Gobert has been respectable on offense this season, and perhaps what's even more surprising is that Cat has started using his tools and talent to be good defensively. And if Cat is playing solid to good defense, He's one of the most valuable bigs in the league point blank. His ability to score the ball on the block while also being one of the best shooting bigs ever is invaluable. I don't know about you guys, but I'm glad that the Timberwolves never traded Cat for that first round pick that apparently they wouldn't have even been able to get if they wanted to. I know that offensively he had a few bad games to start the year, but give me a break. Guys, let me know what you think of everything down in the comments below. How good is this Timberwolves team? Can you see this team continuing this hot play en route to making noise this postseason? Now I know this video I didn't get to focus on every Timberwolves player, but in my next Wolves video, I'll be sure to go more in depth if you guys want me to. I definitely think that a Timberwolves deep dive would be fun, especially when there are gems on this team like Jaden McDaniels, which if you've been following my channel for a while, you'd know how big of a Jaden McDaniels fan that I am. Watching this guy evolve as a player has been phenomenal, and he's somebody that honestly does not get enough publicity for how good that he is at this moment. You can call me crazy, but I truly believe that this man has star upside. He's already one of the premier versatile defenders in the league, and while I'm usually a defensive guy, what truly intrigues me is his offensive potential. And that sounds so silly to say considering how good that this guy already is defensively. Sorry, I got a little carried away. Again guys, let me know what you think of everything down in the comments below. Clicking the video on the screen right now is a great way to support my channel. I'm GETLIKECOOP, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.